Welcome. I'm Adam Miller, a consultant with the Art of Applying and a graduate of the University of Virginia's Darden School of Business. Today we've got a quick question about recommendation letters. So let's take a look at what the client asked our consulting team and how some other clients actually helped answer this question. They write in and say, first, do you think it's too much to ask the same recommenders for recommendation letters if you're applying to more than 5 business schools? And second, can recommenders just reuse the same recommendation across all different programs? So love this question and love the answers here. The first client who actually responds and says, hey, what I found was that many of the recommendation questions are really similar. Some are actually copies verbatim of one another, and you can group them up by type of questions. This makes the request a lot more manageable for recommenders. So that's the big takeaway here is, yes, you can definitely ask them to do all of the schools that you're applying to, because once they've written one letter of recommendation, they've basically written them all. Sure, maybe there's a little bit of difference in like the survey part happening on their end, or maybe a little bit different happening if they want to add a sentence or two about why that school should be particularly excited about this candidate. But in general, all of the content is just about you, your experience, and your career goals, and why an MBA in general makes sense. So it's totally fine to just use the same, let's say 2 people for all 8 of your applications to business school. The client also responds to the other client and says, if you're applying to business schools, the GMAC, who runs the GMAT, the standardized test for business schools, has a common letter platform to help maximize the number of questions your recommenders have to answer. See how many of your schools use this actually as the template. So I'm not going to click on it for the purposes of this video, but basically it just goes through all of the most common questions. And like that person says, some of the schools use that for what they ask a letter writer to fill out. And if you wanted to provide them with a resource, let's say you're early in the process, for your recommenders to look at something before they actually officially log into their portal to fill things out, that right there on the GMAC website would be a fantastic thing for them to start thinking about how they're going to respond to your strengths, your weaknesses, times when they've seen you do work in the office, as well as any other types of extracurriculars they've noticed, and why business school makes so much sense for you. The first client says thank you to that other client. And then finally, we have a consultant who weighs in and says, in her experience, she asked her recommenders to write about 7 schools, and none of them minded that because, like we talked about before, it was a similar letter format for all of them. Also, she was sure to send them a gift in the mail, a chocolate in her case, to thank them afterwards for their effort. And personally, I would even go above and beyond that. I would send them, thank you letters. I would continue to keep them in the loop for which school you end up actually matriculating to before they just see that pop up on their LinkedIn. And then if you really want to go above and beyond, you can check in with them while you're at school and let them know how things are going so that they can see the full scope of why they put in that, 20 minutes to 2 hours worth of work on your specific letter / letters that they copy and pasted to all of those schools. And she concludes here by saying, recommenders are usually genuinely happy to help their mentees and people that they supervise take part in success, that when you get into the top program, they want to feel those emotions. I know in my case, I would send a photo of when I had visited a school to them along the way. I also made sure to bribe them a little bit with alcohol on the front end because I'd worked at a brewery in my free time. And so whatever you can do to make them really feel like they're part of the process, not just an additional bolt on to something that you just need somebody to get done, but that you're instrumental in their overall career, in your overall success, that's going to make them feel like they've succeeded as well by watching you go through this entire process and then go through a program. So That is it for today's Q&A Vault question and answer. I love that most of the responses actually came from this one other client. And if you want any help getting into your dream business school, please reach out to us at theartofapplying.com.